My name is Leonard. I'm Head of Advocacy and Public Affairs at the Alzheimer Society of Ireland. Dementia is an umbrella term that covers a range of illnesses that cause cognitive impairment in the brain. Now, Alzheimer's is the word that everyone will have heard of. Alzheimer's is the main dementia in Ireland and indeed in the Western world. But there are lots of different types of dementias. Vascular dementia is another one, frontal lobe, temporal lobe, Lewy bodies, and many others. But what all of them have in common is that there will be cognitive impairment. But every single person with a diagnosis of any form of dementia is different. Their progression is going to be different. Their symptoms are going to be different. But the common theme among all dementias is that people will begin to have difficulties carrying out their day-to-day functions.
My father was diagnosed with the dementia in 2009. He was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. I brought my father for an MMSE, which is a mini mental score examination. It's how to determine if Alzheimer's or dementia is present. That was done under the ruse of something else, obviously, because there was a lot of pushback from my father and his partner with the suggestion that he possibly had dementia. This would obviously feed into the general societal stigma that dementia sufferers face. We attended the geriatric specialist in UCC in Cork, and that, I suppose, was a huge eye-opener for me. I had always viewed dementia care and sat through many MMSE examinations with residents in the UK, and I was always able to look at it with, I suppose, a business owner's or an operator's perspective, or this aloof perspective. However, sitting there for the first time with someone you love and watching them trip up over the most simple questions was a very, very big eye-opener for me.
Every single person with a diagnosis of any form of dementia is different. Their progression is going to be different. Their symptoms are going to be different. But the common theme among all dementias is that people will begin to have difficulties carrying out their day-to-day functions. With some people the progress is very slow, with others it's faster. But then as you reach middle and into later stages, of course, the cognitive impairment progresses and people's abilities begin to diminish further, and that's when people need a lot more support. People need support from the start, and that support needs to continue, and the type of support needs to change as the illness progresses.
I probably felt guilt that I had missed the start or the early days of his early onset, and then following his diagnosis I wasn't really present. So I made the decision to parachute into his life, see what he sees, do what he does, get up when he gets up, get up with him in the middle of the night if that's the case, and that's what I did. I literally moved into his life. It again was another huge eye-opener for me to actually realise what his daily lived experience is or was critical, and it's critical to my approach to dementia care at the moment, and has been ever since that realisation. The daily lived experience for anyone with dementia is absolutely essential, that you understand it and that the carers can relate to it. Idiosyncrasies like, if we were leaving the house, he needed to have 2 green pens, a blue pen, a black pen, his passport, his driver's licence, 2 pairs of glasses, etc., etc. But when we got back to the house after leaving, all these things had to be put in safe places. So every time you had to leave the house, you would have to go on this hunt for all the essential items, and every time you would return. Understanding the daily lived experience would lead someone very quickly to come up with an idea similar to what I did in that situation. We got a box, we put a small lock on it. It was called Brendan's box for Brendan's stuff. And that way it became a ritual, it became a habit. His stuff was safe, his reality had been acknowledged and validated, and we always knew where everything was.
The most important thing that we can do right now is to increase our understanding of what Alzheimer's and dementia is. And when we have done that, then we can present and think about it in a different way, and in turn support people more positively. So let's stop using negative language like living death and the person disappearing and struggling and fighting. Yes, of course there are negatives to any illness, but if we only present the life of somebody with dementia in those negative terms and negative stereotyping, then it'll be more difficult for us to see a more rounded picture, because there's lots of people living well at different stages with dementia, and we want to make sure that we support and enable people to do that.
It is critical that through sharing information and sharing our stories, that everyone can get a much greater understanding and awareness of what is going on a daily basis. I cannot emphasise enough the importance of the daily lived experience of everyone with dementia.
So the 21st of September is Alzheimer's Awareness Day, and it's so important that we have an awareness day, because we really need to increase our understanding and our awareness of the condition, what it entails, what it means for people and families, and how we can support them.